You left home to build a better life, a new country, a new language, a new version of yourself. But somewhere along the way, something changed. Not just your address, not just your accent, you changed. And now, every phone call home feels harder than it should. They ask why you don't visit enough, why you sound different, why you've become cold, why you can't just come back. And no matter how much you try to explain your life abroad, it feels like your family simply doesn't understand. But maybe the problem isn't love. Maybe it's distance, not physical distance, emotional distance. And the painful truth is that sometimes the people who raised you can no longer fully understand the person you had to become. Here are some of the biggest reasons families misunderstand life abroad. 1. The person who left home no longer exists. When people move abroad, they expect a culture shock. Different weather, different food, different customs. What they don't expect is an identity shock. Because living abroad slowly rebuilds you from the inside out. You learn independence in ways your family may never see. You learn how to survive loneliness, how to navigate systems alone, how to pay bills, solve emergencies, fight homesickness, and keep going without anyone coming to rescue you. Abroad, even small tasks become battles. Opening a bank account, finding housing, understanding immigration paperwork, making friends from scratch. At home, your family still remembers the old you, the version that needed guidance, the version that fit perfectly into familiar routines. But abroad, life forces transformation, and transformation creates distance. Not because you stopped loving them, but because your experiences became impossible to fully translate. How do you explain the exhaustion of constantly adapting? How do you explain feeling foreign everywhere? How do you explain building a life while grieving the old one at the same time? Most people can't explain it, and most families can't understand what they've never experienced. 2. They see the highlights, not the sacrifices. People back home only see the visible rewards, the travel photos, the nice cafes, the foreign city skylines, the success stories. What they don't see are the sacrifices behind them. They don't see the birthdays you missed, the weddings you watched through a screen, the funerals you couldn't attend, the nights you cried alone in a tiny apartment, wondering if leaving home was a mistake. Social media creates an illusion. Your family sees adventure. You experience survival. And because you rarely show the hardest moments, they assume life abroad is easier than it really is. Sometimes they even think you abandoned comfort for luxury. But many immigrants, expats, and international workers know the truth. Living abroad often means carrying invisible emotional weight every single day. You become strong because you have no other option. And over time, people mistake your survival for ease. 3. Guilt becomes part of your life. Guilt is one emotion people abroad rarely talk about honestly. You feel guilty for missing family moments, guilty for changing, guilty for earning more, guilty for not coming home enough, sometimes even guilty for being happy somewhere else. And family members feel their own pain too. Parents may feel abandoned, siblings may feel disconnected, friends may think you've become distant or arrogant. But distance changes relationships naturally. The problem is that families often expect emotional closeness to remain exactly the same, even after years apart. But life abroad changes your rhythm. Your struggles become different. Your priorities become different. Even your mindset changes. And eventually, conversations become strange. You realize you can no longer fully relate to each other's daily lives, not because anyone is wrong, but because you now live in completely different worlds. 4. Success abroad is often misunderstood. Many families believe moving abroad automatically means success. Better money, better opportunities, a better life. And sometimes that's true. But what people don't understand is the emotional price attached to that success. Some people abroad work twice as hard just to maintain stability. They battle visa uncertainty, discrimination, loneliness, cultural isolation, burnout. Some work jobs far below their qualifications just to survive. Others achieve financial success, but lose emotional connection along the way. Because success abroad often demands reinvention. You become more independent, more guarded, more emotionally resilient. And families sometimes mistake that resilience for emotional distance. They say things like, "You've changed. You forgot where you came from. You care more about money now." But often, what changed wasn't your love. It was your survival mode. 5. The hardest part. You no longer fully belong anywhere. This may be the hardest truth about living abroad. After enough time passes, you stop feeling fully at home anywhere. In your new country, you may always feel slightly foreign. But when you return home, something feels different there too. The streets look smaller. The conversations feel unfamiliar. The mindset no longer completely matches yours. You realize something painful. Home continued without you. And while you were adapting abroad, your family was evolving too. People often imagine migration as moving from one place to another. But emotionally, it's more complicated. You exist between worlds, part old self, part new self. And your family may struggle to understand this internal conflict because they still see home as permanent. But for many people abroad, home becomes emotional instead of geographical. It becomes memories, voices, food, music, certain moments, not a physical place you can simply return to. 6. What families often don't realize. What families often don't realize is that people abroad carry two lives at once. The life they are building and the life they are missing. Every achievement abroad carries invisible grief. A promotion feels incomplete without loved ones nearby. A beautiful apartment still feels empty sometimes. Even joyful moments can carry loneliness. Because humans were never designed to separate success from belonging. And many people abroad spend years trying to balance both, wanting freedom while desperately missing familiarity, wanting growth while grieving distance, wanting understanding while knowing some experiences cannot truly be explained. Maybe your family doesn't fully understand your life abroad. But maybe that's because some experiences can only be understood by living them. The loneliness, the transformation, the identity shift, the quiet strength it takes to rebuild your life far away from everyone you love. And maybe your family isn't supposed to completely understand. Maybe the goal isn't perfect understanding. Maybe the goal is compassion. Because love across distance requires imagination. It requires accepting that someone can deeply love their family and still choose a life far away. It requires understanding that growth changes people, and that change is not betrayal. If you live abroad and feel misunderstood, you are not alone. Millions of people carry this silent emotional divide every day. They laugh during video calls while hiding exhaustion. They celebrate achievements while mourning absence. They build new lives while trying not to lose the old ones. And perhaps the bravest thing about people who leave home is not that they learn to survive abroad. It's that they learn to carry two homes in one heart. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone living far from home. And tell us in the comments the hardest part about living abroad that your family doesn't understand. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe.